I've always been a pretty light sleeper. Any little noise can wake me up. But for the past 3 weeks, it hasn't been just any little noise. It's been the same sound at the exact same time, every single night, 3:03 a.m. And it's starting to really get to me. It all started on a Tuesday. I jolted awake, my heart pounding. I wasn't sure what woke me, but then I heard it, a faint whistling sound coming from outside my bedroom window. It was a simple tune, something almost childlike, but there was an unsettling quality to it. It sounded hollow. I peeked through my blinds. My street was empty, bathed in the orange glow of the streetlights. The whistling grew louder as it passed my house, then slowly faded into the distance. I checked my phone, 3:03 a.m. Weird, I thought, but I chalked it up to some late-night jogger with a strange habit and tried to go back to sleep. The next night, it happened again. Same time, 3:03 a.m. Same eerie, whistled tune. This time, I didn't even bother looking. I just lay there in bed, my ears straining, listening as the sound approached, passed, and disappeared. It was like clockwork. This continued for the rest of the week. Every night, 3:03 a.m., the whistling would start. It became a dreadful routine. I'd find myself waking up a few minutes before, my body already tense, just waiting for it. But the second week, my curiosity was battling my fear. Who would be out walking and whistling at that exact time every single night? It didn't make sense. So, I decided I had to see who it was. I set up my phone on a small tripod, pointed it out my window, and hit record before I went to bed. I made sure the time stamp was visible. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted but also anxious to see the footage. I scrubbed through the video file to just before 3:03 a.m. The street was empty and silent. Then, right on cue, the whistling started on the audio track. It grew louder and louder. I watched the screen, my eyes glued to the sidewalk, but there was nothing. No one. The whistling sound passed directly in front of the camera's view, clear as day, and then faded away. But the video showed an empty still street. My blood ran cold. I watched the clip over and over again, maybe a dozen times. I turned the volume all the way up. The whistling was undeniably there, but visually, nothing. Not a shadow, not a flicker of movement, nothing to explain the sound. This is where things started to feel less like a weird neighborhood quirk, and more like something else. Something I couldn't explain. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood. My house is on a corner lot, so my bedroom window faces 2 streets. The whistling seemed to come from the main street, round the corner, and then fade down the side street. The next night, I decided to be more proactive. I stayed awake, armed with a heavy-duty flashlight and my phone ready to record again. I sat in the dark, my heart thumping against my ribs. As 3:02 a.m. ticked over to 3:03 a.m., the familiar tune started, seemingly from a block away. I took a deep breath, flipped on my phone's camera, and simultaneously threw open my blinds, shining the flashlight beam across the street. The powerful beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the entire sidewalk and the road. And just like the video, there was absolutely nothing there. But the whistling was louder than ever before, sounding like it was right outside my window, just feet away from me. I frantically scanned the area with my light, the sidewalk, the neighbor's yard, behind the bushes. Nothing. As the sound passed my house, it was so loud it felt like it was inside my head. And then, just as it started, it began to fade down the side street. I stood there, flashlight beam trembling, completely baffled and terrified. The lack of a physical source was what scared me the most. It's one thing to hear a strange noise. It's another thing entirely for that noise to exist without any visible cause. I started to lose sleep. I tried to stay up past 3 a.m., thinking if I was already awake it wouldn't be so jarring. But the anticipation was almost worse. I'd sit there in the silence, watching the clock, my anxiety building with every passing minute. I tried to rationalize it. Could it be a weird atmospheric phenomenon? A specific frequency carried on the wind? But it was the same tune every time. Not just a random noise. It was intentional. I even walked the route myself during the day. It was just a normal, pleasant, suburban street. Trees, manicured lawns, a few cars parked along the curb. There was nothing that looked out of place. Nothing that could explain the nightly event. Last week, something changed. The whistling was different. The tune was the same, but it was slower, more drawn out. It sounded mournful, almost sad, and as it passed my house, it stopped right outside my window. For a full minute, it was just dead silence. I was frozen, too scared to even breathe. I didn't dare look outside. The silence was somehow more terrifying than the whistling itself. I could feel a presence, a heavy, cold feeling that seeped through the glass. Then, after what felt like an eternity, a single, final, drawn-out whistle echoed, and then it was gone. The next night, I was a wreck. I seriously considered sleeping at a friend's house, but a part of me needed to know what would happen. I barricaded my door with a chair. Not that I thought it would do any good, and I waited. 3:03 a.m. came and went. Silence. 3:04. 3:05. Nothing. For the first time in 3 weeks, there was no whistling. A wave of relief washed over me, so intense, it almost made me dizzy. Maybe it was over. Maybe whatever it was had finally moved on. I slept soundly for 2 nights. The silence was beautiful. I started to feel normal again. I thought the whole ordeal was finally behind me. But then last night happened. I woke up not to a sound, but to a feeling. The feeling of being watched. I opened my eyes and looked at my phone. 3:03 a.m. My heart sank. There was no whistling. There was no sound at all, but he felt Italiano, a cold spot in my room that seemed to move. I slowly sat up and looked toward my window, and that's when I saw it. For the first time, I saw something. It wasn't on the street. It was on my side of the glass. A faint, smudged handprint on the window pane. It was long and slender, not quite human-looking, and as I stared at it, a new sound started. It wasn't whistling. It was a soft rhythmic tapping. 3 slow taps, directly on the glass, right next to the handprint. Tap, 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 tap. I'm making this now. The tapping continued for about a minute before it stopped. The handprint is still there. I haven't touched it. I haven't slept. I'm sitting here in broad daylight, and I'm still terrified. The whistling was bad, but this is so much worse. It's not just passing by anymore. It feels like it wants in. I don't know what's going to happen at 3:03 a.m. tonight, but I'm not sure I want to be here to find out. If you've ever experienced anything like this, please let me know in the comments. Any advice would be appreciated. I'm going to keep recording, and I'll keep you all updated on what happens next. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there.